Good morning, and thanks again for joining me. I'm Bob Jackman. I'm the Teacher of Virtues Facilitator at Charles C. Andrew Youth and Family Treatment Center in Cheshire, Labrador. And a beautiful Monday morning, August 3rd. Those of you that have a civic holiday in your communities, I hope you're enjoying it. It's not 31 degrees like it was yesterday, but still, it's pretty nice out there. Pretty cool. We are working our way through the Family Virtues Guide by Linda Kavelin-Popoff. And for those of you that said you weren't able to get the book, if you go on Amazon.ca and type in Family Virtues Guide, it'll come up. And I think it's about $17.95 for the book. And those of you that have the book, of course, we're working at the 10 guidelines for establishing family ground rules. Of course, establishing family ground rules, like we said, is one of the best ways to set clear boundaries. And to be effective, chosen boundaries need to be those to which everyone in the household is committed. Remember, that's so very important. And we said that establishing family ground rules is perhaps the most important way to keep children feeling safe, both physically and emotionally. And the clearer children are about what is expected, the better their chances of feeling loved and accepted in their efforts to do the right thing. And that's the whole point, of setting boundaries and then setting consequences, is that when the children are involved in both setting them up and developing the consequences, first of all, they're more likely to follow them, and when a consequence is served, they are more likely to still feel loved when it's all said and done, right? So we looked at number one, which was being moderate, only set 5 or 6 ground rules at any one time. We looked at being specific to your family, not to anyone else's family, but the ground rules that you think best fits your family based on the virtues. Number 3 was to be positive and base ground rules on the virtues. So we gave some examples there. We said family ground rule could be peacefulness. Our home is a peace zone. We work out conflict by listening with compassion and talking with honesty. Okay, so and we use our voices, not our hands, and we never use weapons. Another example was cleanliness, respect, consideration, responsibility, but they're just examples, and you could pick from any of the virtues that you feel your family needs to learn at this time. Number 4 was establishing specific relevant consequences. In other words, let the punishment fit the crime. Okay, so if they're not going to bed on time because they're watching TV, then it doesn't make sense to throw their boots out in the ocean. And what would make more sense would be to turn off the TV. And one of the things that some people use now, which a little secret, I guess. If you want everybody to come together in the family room, turn off the internet and watch what happens. You got somebody spending time in their room on their iPad or on their phone or something. When the internet goes off, boom, they're out in the living room. So you want to get a family meeting on the go? Turn off the internet. So that's a little example there, right? Number 5 was use consequences with oh my goodness. Hang on a minute. I'm going to try that word again, okay? Use consequences which are educative, not punitive, of course, punishment, right? Restorative, restoring them to the missing virtue, not retributive. In other words, you have to pay for your crime. You did this, therefore, you got to be punished, right? And we don't want that. Number 6 was to be consistent, and I certainly harped on that one, that of all the ground rules, if you're going to put ground rules in place and consequences, it's extremely important to be consistent with, putting consequences out there. You know, if they break the rule, they have to serve that consequence. Okay? There's no alternative there. Or things will start to fall apart if you don't do that. So now we're looking at number 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 guidelines. We have 4 left to go. Let's look at number 7. It says, communicate rules clearly. Don't be iffy. Don't assume the child knows what the rule is, okay? Communicate it. Write them out. Post them on the refrigerator or somewhere at the child's eye level. Don't put them up in the corner. Don't have them in a book with the cover closed. Write them out. Put them on the fridge at the eye level of the children. And the use of humorous illustrations will help reinforce the rules. So if you're any good at a little bit of artwork, you want to draw up some little funny things to help reinforce the rules that they have to follow. Or, you go online and do some research, and you'd be surprised at the little cartoon things you'll come up with that will reinforce what it is you're trying to say. And humor works well with children, of course, and also with teenagers. Discuss the rules with your children. Be sure they understand the consequences for breaking any of the ground rules. Engage the children in creating a ground rules chart. Their illustrations may well be more compelling than yours. Yeah, get them right involved there. It'll work so much better. So that's number 7. Number 8, when children receive consequences, make sure they understand the reasons. Notice we don't use punishment anymore. It's consequences. As soon as a consequence has been paid, call the child to account. Ask, what was the consequence for? And are you ready to play peacefully now? With warmth and trust, encourage them to keep trying. That's important. With warmth and trust, encourage them to keep trying. If the child is still angry or hurt, this is not a time for a lecture on why they shouldn't have done what they did. It is a time to listen to their feelings. We don't do enough of that. We don't do enough of listening to children. A little child comes to you, and you're doing dishes, and they're trying to talk to you, but you're busy doing the dishes. So you go out and play with your toys, right? Whatever it is that child has to say to you was important to the child, and as parents, grandparents, we have to stop what we're doing. Take your hands out of the water. Dry your hands off. Get down to the level of the child and listen to what the child has to say, and view it as important. Okay. If you don't listen to a child when he's telling you things at 3, 4, 5 years old, then you're not going to get your teenager calling you from university saying, "Mom, I need to talk to you. Dad, I need to talk to you." Because if you're pushing them away when they're little, they're not going to come to you when they get older. Okay, so it's a progressive thing as the child grows. 2 years old, 3 years old. And goes out. We have to listen to our children. Okay. When we consult in schools around the world about creating virtuous reality in the classroom, we recommend that they replace the naughty chair, still used in many countries, by the way, with the courtesy chair, which reflects the principle that a child is always invited back to her best behavior rather than left feeling shamed. Remember the dunce corner? You put the dunce cap on, that kind of thing. Another one would, and you know them all, you stand up in the front of the classroom and you're holding up a ruler. How long can you hold up that ruler, and you can't put it down or you get strapped. All kinds of things like that. And so when you're ready, you ask the child, are you ready to play? Are you ready to be courteous now? And that's the first thing the child needs to hear when their timeout is completed. Okay, you're welcome back. Come play again. But that little timeout was an opportunity for the child to reflect on why they were taken out of the activity, you know, and then to feel good about going back and playing again, you know. And of course, you know, the timeout doesn't have to be in a dark closet. You wouldn't put them in there. I know sometimes with my grandchildren, I would just hold them on my knee. I would put them on the first step of the stairs and sit with them. And that's all the time it was, but it worked. It really did work, and I can vouch for that one. Rule number 9. Make the ground rules non-negotiable. Very important. It's just as important as consistency. Make ground rules non-negotiable. As parents who are the leaders of the family, you have the right and responsibility to decide which issues are negotiable and which are not. Okay, so you're the big person in the family, all right? You're the adult. You still maintain that right. When you make a ground rule, make sure you can live with it. Make sure you can live with it, because you don't want to go changing it when you have to put a consequence in for breaking that ground rule. And make sure that it's truly non-negotiable. Ground rules that are up for discussion or change are not true boundaries. The time for discussion is before the ground rules are established. You may particularly want to consult mature children to receive their input into what the rules need to be and what constitute fair ground rules that will serve as agreements to which they can wholeheartedly commit. Children have a highly developed sense of justice, and if consulted about what the consequences should be for violation of a ground rule, they will often come up with more rigorous ones than you would have. Then you must stick to these consequences to create a high level of trust in your family. Again, consistency. Consistency. Number 10, be flexible. You know, after consistency and then we're talking non-negotiable, now we're going to say be flexible. This doesn't mean be flexible when a child comes to you and says, I'll clean my room when I get home. The coach is waiting for me. We have practice. I can't clean my room now. I'll do it when I get home. No. Before you go to practice, you will do your room. You will clean up your room, okay? That's not the kind of flexibility we're talking about. You have to revise rules over time, okay? So from time to time, as children grow older, and they will, and as circumstances change for your family, such as I move to a new place, and when a child begins school, an older child begins to drive. Wow. There's stress. Or a parent who has been working at home takes a job outside the home. You will need to create new ground rules which replace the old ones to take that kind of thing into account, okay? This is an excellent time to engage the whole family in consulting about what ground rules will help sustain unity, create justice in sharing responsibilities, and keep everyone safe. Now, want to get everybody together in the living room to discuss the ground rules and the consequences? Turn off the internet, okay? There's a little button on the router. You push on that, and everybody comes swarming to the living room to find out what happened. And then you have your little meeting, okay? That's how that one works. So, that's the 10 guidelines. I hope you like those. I sure do. You know, and once you, you know, if you got the book, you read them over and think about them and discuss them in your family. Things start to come to light, you know. On Wednesday, we're going to take a look at a couple of scenarios. So, a couple of scenarios where ground rules are put into place and consequences are there for in the event that the ground rules are broken. And we're going to see what happens in a couple of scenarios. We're going to do that on Wednesday. Another one that we will have to work on next is give choices within boundaries. Give choices. It's not saying don't be consistent, because you have to be. It doesn't say make them, they are non-negotiable, but within the boundary itself, sometimes you have to give choices. And so on Wednesday, we're going to look at those two things, okay? And all of this, of course, is all related to developing the virtues within your families. And to eventually, as time goes on, that your child will have the virtues nurtured within them, and will start to shine more and more and more. And in that case, I'll just give you an example. If your child is one of those who has developed the virtues, and you notice that they're starting to hang around with somebody that's smoking, let's say, for example, or you hear that, oh, this person is smoking weed or something along those lines, your child, if they've developed those virtues and you have the virtue of trust within them, they may actually have an influence on the young person that's smoking, and they may quit smoking as a result. They may have a positive influence on another child who maybe has just picked up smoking weed or something, and that person stops smoking weed. So don't always think that your child is going to pick up the bad habits of another child. They may actually influence the other child to develop a good habit within them. So keep that in mind too, but also keep your eye open, okay? Because you don't want the opposite to happen, for sure. But we're all human beings. We all make mistakes. And all of the children, as well as us, we all have those virtues within us, and the responsibility is ours, especially as adults, to be mentors, to bring out those virtues in our children. As a matter of fact, in every child that we meet. Now, there's a statement from a teacher. Anyway, I said, this morning we're going to do a virtue that I'm just going to randomly pick. I'm going to open up the book, and whatever virtue comes up, that's the one we're going to do this morning. And so I did that. So if you hang on there a minute, you have to have patience. Yeah, the virtue is patience. Okay, so now that you have patience, let's look at the virtue of patience. The quote from the Quran, it says, "O you who believe, seek courage in fortitude and prayer, for God is with those who are patient and persevere." That's from the Quran. What is patience? This is what you need now. This is what you need in order to develop your ground rules and your consequences. You need patience, because once they get into place, you have to have patience and time and perseverance to allow them to work. Okay, don't give up on them. You allow them to work. You stay consistent. Patience is quiet hope and expectation based on trust that, in the end, everything will be all right. Patience means waiting. It is enduring a delay or troublesome situation without complaining. It means having self-control because you can't control the way someone else is acting or when things don't go as you'd like. Patience is being calm and tolerant when difficult things happen. Patience is persevering, sticking with something for as long as it takes to finish it. When you are patient, you know that things take time. Just as a seed you plant will someday grow into a flower or a fruit-bearing tree. Patience is a commitment to the future. It is doing something now so that later something good will happen. It is also tolerating all of the things necessary to make it happen. Patience is seeing the end in the beginning, doing what you can, and then calmly waiting with trust that the results will come. And there, you see the end in the beginning. When you set up all of your ground rules and your consequences, and you see your children following them, You can imagine how beautiful your home is going to be when bedtime comes and they're all gone to bed and you can sit back and relax instead of fighting with them to go to bed. Turn off that TV and go to bed, right? You don't have to do that then, you know. So you see your home as a peace zone where your ground rules are being followed. I think that's called heaven. So why practice patience? Without patience, people want everything now. They might plant a seed in the ground and want to eat the fruit right away. When people are impatient, they act mad and irritable when things don't go their way or other people make mistakes. They get right irritated and mad. They're impatient people. When people practice patience, they do things now that will bear fruit in the future, like practicing guitar or practicing the flute or going to practice to be a hockey player. You know, you practice the little things now because you're going to see the results in the future. They plant seeds so flowers, vegetables, and trees will grow. When people are patient, they don't whine, complain, or criticize. So when you hear that, you know people are not being patient. We all do that, I think, from time to time. But we have to practice. People that are patient, they forgive other people and they forgive themselves as well when they're patient. They make the world a kind and gentle place, and other people feel safe around them. So how do you practice patience? You practice patience by accepting things you cannot control. Even if you feel impatient, you act calm and accepting while waiting for someone who is delayed. You are gentle with others when they make mistakes, and you are gentle with yourself too. Patience helps you to stick to something you are trying to do, even when it gets difficult or tiresome. You persevere until it is finished, even if there is no reward for all your work until the very end. You are willing to set goals for your future, knowing that it is really worth the effort. Trust in God can give you patience, a quiet hope that can get you through hard times. The virtue of patience. So how do you know you're practicing patience? I know when some people are not practicing patience. Congratulations, you are practicing patience when you calmly tolerate a delay or confusion. When you calmly tolerate a delay or confusion. I don't understand this. Well, calm down, relax. Let me explain. You are practicing patience when you are willing to wait for things you want. You're willing to wait. You set goals and stick with them until they are completed. Remember the family virtues ground rules for your family. When you do something now which will help you in the future. Congratulations, you are practicing patience when you accept things you cannot control with humor and grace. When you are gentle with others when they make mistakes. You are practicing patience when you rely on God to help you persevere. So here's the affirmation. Here's one we would all recite. I am patient. I am gentle with others and myself when mistakes are made. I set goals and persevere until my goals are won. I trust God that all will be well. Now I got a quote here or two that I'd like to share with you too, okay, before we go. I want patience and I want it now. Anonymous. I want patience and I want it now. Interesting. Help us, this comes from May Sharon. Help us always to be hopeful gardeners of the Spirit who know that without darkness nothing comes to birth, as without light nothing flowers. Interesting. The seed has to be poked down into the cold, wet, dirty ground and stay there for an extended period of time until eventually, out of the darkness, comes the plant. And as the sun shines on that plant, guess what comes next? The flowers, because the flowers, they need the light. So from darkness to light, and seed to flowers. Here's another one. This comes from Robert Llewellyn. 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 Names, wow. Patience may be defined as that quality of life which makes suffering creative, and impatience as that whereby suffering becomes a destructive force. I can see impatience becoming a destructive force, yes. And I can see where someone is being patient, creative things can happen. When do you find it hard to be patient? Have you ever reflected on that one? When do you find it hard to be patient? When you see the bus coming down the road and you've got 3 kids there and they don't have their boots on yet? That would be an example of my impatience. Right? Oh, come on, get those boots on. How about this one? What are seeds doing when they are underground and we can't see them? There's more to that one than meets the eye. What are seeds doing when they are underground and we can't see them? They're growing, right? Aren't they growing? What's happening with the virtues that are within us and we can't see them? They're growing. And if we continue to nurture them in children, in particular, they will eventually start to grow. They'll start to be seen. So that's where our patience comes in, our perseverance, and that's where being very, very firm with our ground rules and our consequences. That's how we nurture those that are inside of us. So what are seeds doing when they're underground and we can't see them? And the last one here. What do you need in order to grow your patience? What do you need in order to grow your patience? And I circle a little thing here. It says 3 words. Wait for it. Patience. Wait for it. Okay, well, thank you very much for being with me and sharing this with me today. I hope you were being patient with me, and I hope you wrote down all of those ground rules and are starting to develop consequences. I also have a list of some possible consequences that you could use in the event that your ground rules are broken. And I think at one point I'm going to have a little session on the ground rules themselves, okay? I know on Friday we're going to look at a couple of scenarios where we'll be looking at consequences based on a broken ground rule, okay? So I'm looking forward to that. And I certainly hope to see you guys there as well. So until then, be patient, stay safe, no viruses, please. And I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning. They say be there or be square. Okay, until then, bye for now.